So Germany actually mentioned something pretty interesting. They said that they're actually not going to ban Huawei. So right now it's more of a North American thing. Canada and the US, it's really difficult to buy a Huawei phone here. Like we talked previously, because people think there might be spyware on the
Mhm.
phones. And Germany's just saying, you know what, we just don't have any proof. And so until you can show us some proof, we're going to go ahead and let everybody purchase them. Now, what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, Canada hasn't said yes or no yet. So Canada hasn't been like Australia, New Zealand, and the United States where they're banning for sure. There's a lot of talk about it, and I'm not sure if I totally agree with Germany's stance, just because they say there's no evidence, but it sure sounds like there's a lot of evidence. And
Right.
they haven't just laid it out, but we're talking some of the top security experts in the world are warning about this, and this is called the Five Eyes program. And I think we talked about the Five Eyes. Actually, we didn't. We were
It's
going to talk
basically
about
the pen tablet
the
with
pen
the queen, the Rothschild.
and the Colonel with his wee beady eyes. So, anyways, the Five Eyes. This is an intelligence alliance
Uh-huh.
that is U.S., Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and Britain.
Okay.
And I guess Germany's not part of the Five Eyes, so maybe they haven't seen the same evidence that has been shared between those five countries. So if Germany says they haven't seen proof, I don't know. This is pretty strong proof. I mean, look at Australia and New Zealand. They are so much in the influence of China and Asia, and the fact that they were the first to ban them tells me there's something up. And
I
yeah.
just cracked up when I saw that it was a lobster themed meeting held in Canada, this Five Eyes. Are you part of the Five Eyes, Matt?
We eat a lot of lobster here, Dan. It's
Uh-huh.
delicious. Spies like lobster too.
Spies like lobster. Okay, well, I mean, if the Five Eyes think it's bad, maybe Germany should too.
Well, here's the other thing, Dan. It is a proven fact. China has been caught with their hands in the cookie jar. They have been caught spying on Western countries, and they have actually been caught stealing technology from Canada, of all places.
Man gives birth. That's a fact.
That's a fact, Charlie, I tell you. Boy, we're quoting that movie a lot today. But it is a fact. They're stealing technology. They're hacking the world and have been. They have a poor track record. Why would you take a risk like this? You're setting up a 5G network. This is going to be the fastest network in the world. Everything's going to be connected. Cars are going to be connected to this. Heart, like, uh, palpitation, what are they called? Like, implants are going to be connected to this. They could stop your heart if you're hooking up to it, right? It's just totally setting you up to be in trouble. In fact, it's kind of like the same concern that governments had when GPS was totally 100% controlled by the United States government.
Oh,
They could turn it off. Those satellites belong to the United States, and they've shared it with the rest of the world. But of course, everybody else is concerned. So China's getting their own GPS, Russia's getting their own GPS, Europe's getting their own GPS. But up until then, everybody was dependent on them. So even if Huawei wasn't spying or setting things up to be spying, they could shut everything down with the snap of a finger, right? So just that alone, I think, is concern enough to say, um, okay, Huawei, prove to me that there are fail safes in your hardware.
well, what about the free market argument? Like, we let Cupertino and Korea in on the fun with the smartphone market. Why can't we let China in? And really, these competing smartphone manufacturers just make prices cheaper. It drives up competition, and it's better for the consumer.
I agree. I think competition's great. I think OnePlus, Huawei, they've done great things. The only problem is they're not part of a free market. They have a lot of free market aspects in their economy, but they are a communist country, which is ultimately controlled and owned by the government. In fact, Huawei's CEO is a former three-star general in China, right? That,
What?
yeah, huge government
Oh,
individual. And that's one of the biggest concerns. Not only do they have the capability, but also the people at the top also have the connections and ties to and our Chinese government. So
What if
those
I
are
told
concerns.
you Mark Zuckerberg was a three-star general? Just kidding. That kid didn't even go to
He is
college.
the
Yeah.
reincarnation of the colonel with his wee beady eyes. Or you're gonna eat my chicken.
Oh, fascinating. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with Huawei? I think I saw some notes in there.
Yeah, so here's some interesting things. This is actually what the real concern is about. Huawei is also spearheading right now a surveillance program in China for the Chinese government. And that surveillance program is already working with the hardware that they have out. And all phone manufacturers are, by law, um, told they have to comply with this surveillance system. So this is what I think sparked people's concern and the investigation into the hardware issue that Huawei's putting out there. And this is what it's called, the Public Security Bureau of China. And these are the things they can do. They are using facial recognition on all the cameras to recognize who you are. They are digitally monitoring where you are, and they have artificial intelligence basically trying to identify whether you are a dissident or not.
Oh,
So I don't know if it's going to catch you jaywalking. I don't know if it's going to catch you breaking minor infractions like speeding, or if it will be down to I overheard this guy talking about Tiananmen Square protests. And if that's the case, that's just downright scary. And facial recognition, Dan, like it's going to know where you are, what you're doing, what you're talking about. And this is governed by the government of China. This is a policy put in place. And so, of course, a lot of manufacturers are concerned about that and saying, well, should we really be selling iPhones to China? Should we really be selling um, this hardware that will have to comply with the Public Security Bureau of China? So that is concerning, and Huawei is spearheading that. And then couple that on top of the fact that Huawei is building the infrastructure for the world's 5G, and you get people freaking out. And then you have security experts going, oh no, this is easy stuff. They could already be
so
doing it now.
so you say that they're spearheading 5G for the world. Are they doing that for the United States and Germany as well, or just for the Chinese territories?
United States said no. So United States, Australia, and New Zealand have said no. Everybody else is basically doing like going through the bidding process.
Hmm.
Europe is actually quite a bit behind. They've already stated they're not going to be 5G ready until I think 2023. So they're taking the slow, more affordable approach, waiting for the hardware to drop in price. So other than Germany, and Britain is still on the fence. So they're the only two that have actually spoke up on 5G. I think the rest of Europe is doing a wait and see approach.
Well, that makes sense because France is hosting the Olympics in 2024, so I bet you they just want it ready before the Olympics happens, yeah?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So
But
speaking
before
of
we move on,
5G, oh yeah,
really, really quick, I mean, if you think about Google, though, they're a little bit creepy too. I mean,
yeah,
have you ever taken a photo with your phone and then it says, "Oh, it looks like your friend Levi's in this photo. Send him an email with the photo." That's
I love
weird.
it.
You like
It is
it?
weird. I love it, but I guess you've got to ask yourself what nefarious things are being done with my photos, right? And that's AI, right? Now imagine that, and now it's AI policing, which is what
Right.
China wants to do. Oh, I see you and Levi were saying bad things about the government. Guess who's knocking on your door right now because they know where you are,
Hmm.
right? That is scary. That is worse than 1982. Like we're talking pure um, monitoring and tracking of citizens and stepping on their rights and freedoms. And I guess you're in China, you don't have as many rights and freedoms, but you really should. So us in the Western world that are concerned about these things and feel that free speech and democracy and all these things are right, we should really be worried about giving so much power and control to companies and governments that don't.